Hi, and welcome to the sample analysis with the movie The Breakfast Club. Now, I don't know if you remember this film or not, but it was one of my favorites, and oftentimes it's one of the favorites that my students like to watch too. This is one that I would often show in class, at least in part, to get the idea of theme down, as well as showing some pivotal scenes that I chose. One particular theme that I looked at with The Breakfast Club, now mind you, I had to watch the whole thing a few times to better understand the theme, or as I like to call it, the message. What did I understand from the film? Well, I understood that different characters were able to relate to each other in different ways. So that started to kind of get me thinking about how we're more alike than we think we are in society. Even though we may look different and we might belong to different groups or social groups, as we see in high school, we all have some things in common. And so that common human characteristic is what I wanted to kind of really look at with the theme in this film. Now, I chose three particular scenes from the film. And for your assignment, you'll choose 2 to 3 different scenes to analyze. Now, we don't want to look at the entire film because that would take forever. But for our short analysis, we're going to take a look at 3 different scenes. In this video, I'm going to show you the opening scene from The Breakfast Club. Now, even the opening scene and the closing scene can be really important for analysis because the director and or writer want to get something across to you. Now, I'm going to walk you through the opening scene a little bit to tell you what stood out to me in relation to this message. Now, my message is that, we all have something in common. We can all find common ground, and we're all human in some way. So if you take a look at the opening scene, it not only starts out like a normal film, but there's also music along with it. Now, if you want to look up the opening scene and take a look at it from The Breakfast Club, you're more than welcome to. But we have music that goes along with it. So the music is something I can analyze as well. Now you notice the music, if you look it up, it's a Dangerous Minds song, and it has lyrics that say, "Don't forget about me." Right? So that's another part of that theme, the idea that we are all in this kind of world together and we have things in common, even though we may not think we do. So I'm going to fast forward just a little bit to show you. So you'll notice that it has kind of a longer intro, and you can think about that a little bit as far as analysis. Why have that longer intro with that song? What pertains to the overall theme? Now, I could talk about in my analysis how the opening scene, the credits, and the song all kind of relate to everybody working together and being a part of this group, even though we think we don't have a lot in common. And you'll notice the David Bowie quote. If you're not sure who David Bowie is, look him up. Popular singer, songwriter, actor, especially in the 70s and 80s. It says, "And these children that you spit on as they try to change their worlds are immune to your consultations. They're quite aware of what they're going through." So the idea that this group kind of belongs together, they can relate to each other, and they also have a common kind of goal in mind, a common idea that it's them against the parental world. This outside society is trying to tell them what to do, yet they are quite aware of what they need to do, and they're trying to break out on their own. So this group tries to find common ground with that. So in my analysis, I could actually talk about these words, this quote from one of David Bowie's songs and how it relates. And I could also talk about why they put it here. So putting it in the very beginning gets you in the mindset and get you ready to think about how these kids, these seemingly normal high school kids, come to find out that they have more in common than they thought. So it shows that for quite a bit of time. And then it fades out. So I want you to take a look at the fade out if you can see it. Now, this effect of the glass breaking might seem a little bit primitive compared to our standards today in film, and all the technical things that we have going on today. But if you think about it, there's a message and meaning in even that simple technique. So breaking the glass, from what I understood from it, I could relate it to my message that they're breaking through something. They're breaking through and figuring things out together about where they fit into society. They don't want to be put in little boxes or little groups as maybe their parents might want them to, but instead they want to figure out how to kind of find their own way. And they are seemingly breaking that, that barrier. And then it opens up to the high school. And this is just the opening credits. Now we go into the rest of the opening scene where we meet our characters. And you'll notice that we meet our characters and their parents. Not only do we meet their parents, but we learn a little bit about their home life, their background, and even their social status based on their car and their lunches. I guess you could take a look at that too, and their attitudes.
Saturday, March 24th, 1984. Shermer High School, Shermer, Illinois, 60062. Dear Mr. Vernon, we accept the fact that we had to sacrifice a whole Saturday in detention for whatever it was we did wrong. What we did was wrong. We think you're crazy to make us write an essay telling you who we think we are.
So this is interesting too, because the opening scene also has a voiceover from one of the characters. Now, the voiceover is actually reading the letter that they wrote to the vice principal. And the vice principal, ironically, asked them in detention, now mind you, it's punishment, in detention to write who they think they are, write an essay about who they think they are. And so that's part of it too. The whole message of identity and who they think they are and where they fit in is really kind of interesting, because he's asking them to think about it, but then he's telling them who they should be. So it's a little bit ironic. You're not expecting, them to really kind of break out because they're so used to being told what to do. So the voiceover and opening scene is really important, but also the images it shows. It shows the different groups, the jock, the prom queen, the degenerates, the different characters that we're seeing in the Breakfast Club are being displayed here. So you're kind of getting a look into the story beforehand, and you don't realize it until it's over with.
What do you care? You see us as you want to see us. In simplest terms, the most convenient definition. She has a brain, an athlete, basket case, princess, and a criminal. Correct? That's the way we saw each other at 7 o'clock this morning. We were brainwashed.
So he talks about being brainwashed into thinking that they are already fitting into these little parts of society. They're already labeled, in other words, and they have already have this predestination that they will be in a certain social class, they will be in a certain social group, but yet these kids figure out that they don't have to be. They also figure out that there's not that many differences. They all have similar issues and they're all fighting against similar things. Now, the rest of the scene shows them being dropped off. This is another part that you may want to talk about, or that I would want to talk about in my film analysis. So take a look at just a part with the where they're being dropped off.
Can't believe you can't get me out of this. It's so absurd. I have to do it Saturday. It's not like it was effective or anything.
I'll make it up to you. Honey, she plans to go shopping. Doesn't make it effective. Have a good day.
Is this the first time or the last time we do this?
Last.
Well, get in there and use the time to your advantage.
Well, we're not supposed to study. We just have to sit there and do nothing.
Well, mister, you figure out a way to study. Well, go.
So already we see the two characters being introduced and we learn a lot about them. We learn that the first character kind of gets a lot of what she wants, and she's upset that her dad couldn't get her out of detention. So she's a little bit more privileged. The second character, you'll notice that the license plate says EMC squared. He is supposed to be the brainiac. He's supposed to be the one that gets the good grades, not being sent to detention. So we have high expectations from his parents. And as the scene goes on, we see the different parental play out. Even down to the one that's deemed the criminal who doesn't get dropped off by anyone, in fact. And so it plays out like that in this short 6-minute scene, this opening scene. We can get so much from it. And every time you look at a scene, I want you to try and relate it to the message. You know, what are we learning? We're learning that high school kids have a lot of expectations put on them from their parents, from the school, from society even. There are expectations out there, but yet they don't have to necessarily follow along with that. So in the next video, I'm going to show you another scene that from The Breakfast Club to take a look at. If you have any questions about this one or you want to discuss it, you can feel free to email me, contact me through Teams or by phone. And I'm happy to talk to you a little bit about this scene and others. We will also have a Zoom session where we can talk about this as well and your ideas too. I hope this helps, and I look forward to seeing what films you choose to work with.